The stranger who knew my name. I used to believe home was the safest place in the world. No matter how bad my day was, the second I walked through my front door, something in my chest would unclench. I knew my street. I knew the sound my porch light made when it flickered on. I knew my neighbors well enough to wave, not well enough to talk. I had a routine, and my routine had never once let me down. After one night, that stopped being true. And I don't think I'll ever get that feeling back. The feeling that a locked door actually means something. This is the story of the night a stranger stood outside my house and knew things about me that no stranger should ever know. Part 1. The Routine. My name is Daniel. I was 28, living alone in a small rented house just outside the city. The kind of place with more trees than streetlights. My life was aggressively normal. Up at 6:30, coffee, shower. Out the door by 7:45, every single day like clockwork. Home by 6, dinner, some TV, bed by 11. I used to joke that you could set your watch by me. I never thought that was dangerous information. It was just my life. Boring, predictable, mine. At least that's what I thought. The night everything changed started exactly like every other night before it. Nothing warned me. That's the part that still gets to me. There was no build-up, no bad feeling in my gut when I pulled into the driveway. It was just a Tuesday. I made dinner. I watched something forgettable on TV. Around 10:30, I went to bed. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the refrigerator humming from 2 rooms away. The kind of quiet that makes you notice every other sound after it. Part 2. The first knock at 11:32 p.m. I heard it. A knock. Not loud, not urgent. Just 2 soft raps against the front door. I lay there for a second, telling myself I'd imagined it. Houses make noise at night. Wood settles. Pipes tick. I waited. Nothing. I was just starting to relax when it came again. Knock, knock. Slower this time. More deliberate, like whoever it was knew exactly how long to wait before knocking again. Long enough that I'd start to feel safe. Short enough that the fear never fully left. I checked my phone. 11:34 p.m. Nobody I knew would show up that late without texting first. Not my coworkers, not my family, not the one friend who still dropped by unannounced sometimes. I turned off the TV and didn't move. I told myself if I stayed quiet, whoever it was would eventually give up and leave. They didn't. After about 20 seconds of silence, I heard footsteps on my porch. Slow, unhurried, like someone pacing back and forth in front of my door, thinking. I got up as quietly as I could and crept toward the hallway. There's a narrow window beside my front door. Frosted glass, enough to see shapes, not faces. Through it, I could make out the outline of someone standing there. Still, facing the door. My porch light only lit up part of him. A shoulder, an arm. The rest of him disappeared into the dark, like the night was hiding him on purpose. For 1 second, I thought, maybe he needs help. Maybe his car broke down. Then he spoke, and that thought disappeared completely. Part 3. He knew my name. Daniel. One word. Calm. Almost friendly. My whole body went cold. I hadn't opened the door. I hadn't said a word. I hadn't even turned on the light. There was no reason, no possible logical reason, for a stranger standing on my porch at 11:34 on a Tuesday night to know my name. I backed away from the door, my heart slamming against my ribs. He waited a few seconds, like he was letting the moment sink in for both of us. Then, "I know you're home, Daniel." My hand found my phone in my pocket. I pulled up the emergency call screen, my thumb hovering over the button, but I didn't press it yet. I don't know why. Some part of me needed to understand what I was dealing with before I made it real. That decision is one I still question, because what he said next made my stomach drop straight through the floor. Your blue car is parked outside again. I looked toward the window without meaning to. Sure enough, my car, sitting in its usual spot in the driveway, exactly where I'd left it that afternoon. He could see it. He was watching it right now, probably, while he talked to me through my own front door. "You always park in the same spot," he said. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some random person who'd wandered up to the wrong house. This was someone who had studied me. Someone who had learned my patterns the way you'd learn a schedule you were planning around. "You leave every morning at 7:45. I stopped breathing. Because he was right. Down to the minute. Part 4. The call. I called the police. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost couldn't unlock my phone. While it rang, the stranger kept talking through the door like we were having a conversation, like this was normal. "You probably think I'm crazy," he said almost gently. Silence. Then, "But I just wanted to meet you." The dispatcher picked up. I kept my voice down to barely a whisper, moving away from the windows, trying to keep the layout of my own house between us. I told her someone was outside my door, that he knew my name, that he'd been describing my daily routine like he'd memorized it. She told me to stay away from the entrances, find somewhere central in the house, and keep the line open until officers arrived. For a few minutes after that, there was nothing. No footsteps, no voice. I actually let myself hope he'd left. That hope lasted exactly as long as it took for 3 knocks to slam against the door. Hard enough that I felt them in my chest. Bang, bang, bang. I nearly dropped my phone. And then, quiet, almost tender, like he was letting me in on a secret meant just for the two of us. "Daniel, you should really lock your back door." Part 5. The back door. My blood went ice cold. I turned toward the kitchen so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. The back door. I locked it every single night. I always locked it. It was practically a reflex at this point, something I didn't even have to think about. At least, that's what I'd always believed. Now I wasn't sure of anything. I didn't move toward it. I didn't dare. If it really was unlocked, walking toward it meant walking toward whatever might already be on the other side of it. Or worse, walking toward the exact spot he wanted me to go. So I stood frozen in my own hallway, phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dispatcher's voice telling me help was close, while I stared down a dark kitchen that suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else. Minutes crawled by like hours. Then, finally, red and blue light sweeping across my living room wall. The police had arrived. Part 6. A nothing there. 2 officers searched the property. Front yard, backyard, garage, every hedge, every shadow, every gap along the fence line. They found nothing. No footprints in the soft dirt along the flower beds. No broken windows. No sign that anyone had been there at all, except for one thing. The back door, unlocked, exactly like he said. One of the officers checked it, frowned, and asked if I was sure I'd locked it that night. I told him I always did. He didn't argue with me. He just wrote it down and told me, gently, that people convince themselves of a lot of things when they're scared. Before they left, one of them gave me a piece of advice I'll never forget. "Check your cameras. See if you can identify him." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch with every light in the house on, staring at the front door until the sun came up. Part 7. What the cameras showed. The next morning, hands still shaking from exhaustion and nerves, I pulled up the footage from my 2 exterior cameras. What I found is the reason I still can't fall asleep some nights without checking the locks 3, 4, 5 times. The same man had walked past my house almost every night for 3 weeks. Same time, almost midnight, give or take a few minutes. Same slow, unhurried walk, like he had nowhere else to be and all the time in the world to be there. Some nights he just walked by. Other nights, the footage showed him slowing down, stopping, turning his head toward my windows and standing there. Sometimes for 10, 15, 20 seconds, before moving on like nothing had happened. But the footage from the night he actually knocked was the part that broke something in me. Nearly 40 minutes before the first knock, the backyard camera picked him up walking around the side of the house. He crossed the yard, stopped at the back door, the same door he later told me to lock, and stood there for almost 10 minutes, not trying the handle, not forcing anything, just standing, completely still facing the door, like he was deciding something. Then he walked calmly around to the front and waited another 20 minutes before he ever knocked. He had been in my backyard at my back door for the better part of an hour before I ever knew he existed. Part 8. After I changed every lock in the house the next day, I added 3 more cameras, one aimed directly at that back door. Within a few months, I'd broken my lease and moved across town into an apartment building with a locked entrance and neighbors close enough to hear me scream. The man was never identified. The footage was too dark, too distant, his face never fully in frame. The case is still technically open, according to the last officer I spoke to. I don't expect a call. But there's one question I still can't put down, even now, years later, in a different house with different locks. How long had he been watching me before that night? And out of 3 weeks of walking past my house, staring at my windows, learning when I left and when I came home, why did he choose that Tuesday to finally knock? Because the scariest part of that night was never the knocking. It was never even hearing him say my name. The scariest part was realizing, the next morning, sitting alone with that footage playing on a loop. He had been there, over and over, for weeks, and I never noticed. I still wonder some nights if anyone standing outside my window right now would notice me either.